Let me set the scene, ladies. It is 2020 and we're in the height of a global panini. You're stressed, tired, and scared for your life, but somebody needs to put food on the table. So being the girl boss that you are, you sit down on your computer and mentally prepare to click that dreaded invite link of the first Zoom meeting of the day. You click the link and a few seconds later, you're confronted with your own reflection, which is as big as your computer screen staring right back at you. The first thing that you notice is that the overhead lighting from your room casts a shadow on your under eye area, emphasizing the fact that you haven't slept well for ages. And the quality and angle of your webcam is truly homophobic, and it makes you look more like SpongeBob and less like Bella Hadid. As you take all of this in, you cannot help but wonder, God, I look like. The worst part is that this is not an isolated case. In fact, many of us experience this on the daily, 24/7 for the past 3 years. We were in the extraordinary situation that we had all the time in the world to reminisce of how ugly we felt because we were stuck at home and with zero contact. You may be wondering, like, what does this has to do with suntanning? Well, patience is a virtue, and I'll get there when I get there. The thing is that when lockdown restrictions were becoming more flexible, people went in droves to the dermatologist and to get cosmetic procedures. And during that time, we also saw the catastrophic fall of makeup as the queen of social media. During this period, global market sales for makeup dropped by 28%. It also didn't help that the most prominent beauty gurus were all out for the battle royale in youtube.com. Like, you just had to be there. Like, Toddy ate down.
Like, suck dick and like, I'm just like, oh my God, time and place. And you did it at my birthday dinner.
And when the makeup world was at its lowest point, a new supreme emerged, the skinfluencer. Like, skincare was in an all-time high during the global pacherizo. Like, it was everywhere, and even celebrities jumped in the hype, creating like not very effective and extremely overpriced skincare brands. I'm looking at you, Brad. And if you know something, if you have consumed some type of skincare content throughout your life, you know very well that it doesn't matter if you follow a dermatologist, an esthetician, or a homosexual. All of them agree that there's only one thing, one product that is essential, and that is
sunscreen.
Sunscreen. Sunscreen.
Sunscreen. Sunscreen.
Sunscreen.
Sunscreen. However, even with the explosion of skincare content online, people are making up for lost time because of lockdown, traveling at unprecedented rates and spending a lot of time outside while, you guessed it, not carrying or not using any type of sun protection. And at the same time, we're seeing some of the most famous, beautiful, and rich people in the world sporting a really dark and deep tan 24/7, to the point that you second guess yourself and ask, were they black? So why is any of this important? Well, the incidence of skin cancer is on the rise and is expected to grow in the next 20 years. And as the planet grows warmer, skin cancer is gonna pop off, sis, and not in the good way. So I'm noticing a disconnect in the thing that we know and what we do. Like, why in the era of the skincare renaissance, people are avoiding sunscreen like the plague? Why does a beauty-obsessed population go sunbathing in the middle of a heat wave? Why some cultures avoid the sun while others worship the sun to the point of presumably changing their race? And why, for the love of God, is Dua Lipa always on vacation? Let's investigate. So hello everybody, my name is Fruit and welcome back to my channel. I like everything that has to do with skincare and grooming, not that grooming. So in this video, I want to examine our relationship with the sun and its implication for our health, for our beauty standards, and even for our perceptions of race. And I'm going to answer all of these questions while I walk you through my skincare routine, because this is a free country and I can do whatever I want. And all of the products that I have here now are thanks to the sponsor of this video, my bank account. And if you're interested in purchasing any of these products, I'm gonna link these products down below in the description box, because there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. So if you're interested in understanding how skincare and everything that entails shapes our psychology and health, strap in, ladies, because this is gonna be a ride. Before we start, let me put my headband. I'm back. I'm a cat. I'm not gonna say meow. How do I look? The screen is here, the monitor. So ready, ladies? Let's cleanse. I'm not actually going to cleanse in front of the camera. I tried that, it doesn't look good. But usually I double cleanse at night and I use one cleansing oil and then one water cleanser. The cleansing oil that I use is the Kose Speedy Oil. This is very good. And then I follow it up with the low pH Good Morning Cleanser from CosRx. And as you can see, most of the products that I'm going to show you here are from East Asia. Not because I am a weeb, says the catboy, but I think they're cheaper and most effective. So as a good cleanse, let's get some things out of the way. And let's start with definition. So what is a suntan? According to YouTube's best skincare influencer, Dr. Dray, a suntan is not a quirky thing that your body does. In fact, a suntan is an indicator of sun damage. It is similar to a bruise, is your body trying to tell you that your skin has had it officially.
Had it with you, go the home. I've had it officially.
So when you sport a tan and everybody's complimenting you on how amazing you look, they're actually complimenting you on hurting yourself. I know that this is me being dramatic, but I am not a dermatologist. I am a homosexual. So if you have a suntan and you further expose your skin to the damaging consequences of the sun, you might end up with a sunburn. So a sunburn is an inflammatory response to sun damage. That's why it stings and it burns like a. Also, a sunburn causes permanent damage on your skin, not necessarily on the outside of the skin, but more deep inside in the DNA. You may not see it, but it's there. Also, the damage caused by sun tanning and sunburning in particularly accumulates throughout your life, increasing your likelihood of developing skin cancer. And when I'm talking about skin cancer, I'm specifically talking about melanoma. Melanoma, which honestly sounds like the name of a fairy and steel Pokemon, is the deadliest and most common form of skin cancer. One of the main risk factors for melanoma is being over the age of 65, because the longer that you live on this earth, the more exposure to the sun you will have. One of the other major risk factors is having a light or fair type of skin that burns easily. Other risk factors include having a family history of melanoma, having a lot of moles, having or experiencing 5 or more sunburns throughout your life, and using tanning beds. Just to put things into perspective, you just going in a few seconds into an indoor tanning bed can increase your risk of developing a melanoma by 75%. So all of the girlies from the Y2Ks are in big trouble. Paris, Nicole, better get those sunspots checked. So how big of an issue is melanoma? So in 2020, it was estimated that there were 325,000 cases of melanoma worldwide. These numbers are expected to grow by at least 50% in 2040. That is 500,000 cases of melanoma around the world and around 100 deaths per year. Most melanoma cases are reported in Australia and New Zealand, followed by Western Europe. However, most reported deaths from melanoma happen in Central and Eastern European countries. So this is a white people problem, right? To an extent, yes. But black and brown people can still suffer from melanoma. Rough estimates indicate that at least 1 in 1,000 black people are going to be diagnosed with melanoma. In brown people, that is 1 in 167. Yet, as global warming shantays in our lives, we probably are going to see those numbers increasing. Interestingly, this is also a men's problem. Melanoma cases and deaths are more common in men than in women. Lesser men as Ben Shapiro and JP will likely say that this is the fault of feminism. Unsurprisingly, they are wrong. Some speculate, since beauty marketing often tends to target women more than men, women are more likely to be aware of the damages consequences of sun exposure and are also more likely to be aware of sunspots and follow them up with their dermatologist. Additionally, men, because of historical reasons and even currently, you can find them more often in professions such as being a farmer, a construction worker, and even a sailor, which are professions that involve a lot of outdoor time and sun exposure. But that's not all. Also, the rates of melanoma are more common in people from a higher socioeconomic status than those who are poor. At the same time, high socioeconomic status people are less likely to die from melanoma in comparison to those from a low socioeconomic status. Rich people avoiding the consequences of their acts. Shocker. As you can imagine, wealthy people have a lot of leisure time, and most of their leisure time is often in the outdoors, playing polo, playing golf, or sipping mimosas in the Bahamas. While the plebs, we are all playing Call of Duty and not leaving the house. Lastly, did you know that queer men are also more likely to develop skin cancer than straight men? Like, this was one of the facts that mainly interested me in doing this video. I wonder why. In one of my previous videos, I mentioned that queer people in general are more likely to develop a lot of physical and mental illnesses because of their exposure to homophobic stressors. And I think that that argument and that idea still holds true for why queer men are more likely to develop skin cancer than straight men. However, many homos are actively trying to get a suntan because it also makes them feel puss puss cunt cunt. Like, think about it. Have you seen a flock of gay people going to the Swiss mountains for vacation? No, they're all in Palm Springs, Puerto Vallarta, and in Mykonos. And they go there because of the sun and the sea of shirtless men. So all of these other risk factors such as social class, gender identity, and standing Ariana Grande highlight the fact that the higher likelihood of getting a melanoma is not only biological, but also psychological. Because we have things such as marketing, labor distribution, lack of information, trying to feel rich, famous, and but where all of this comes from. So to answer this question, I think it's best if we go back in time and read some history. Because reading is what?
Fundamental.
That's right. That's right.
Let's tone. I used to think that having a toner in your skincare routine was completely unnecessary. I still think that way, but they just feel so good. So I have two toners, one that I use in the morning and one that I use at night. In the morning I use the Hadalabo Kojuku Premium Essence, and at night I use the Advanced Neo 96 Musing Power Essence from Cosrx because I'm basic. I think it also helps that I really like a good chunk of musing on top of my face. I'm sorry, Mom. Anyway, let's tone. So I'm gonna look there because there is the monitor. But basically, so the love of the sun goes way back. We had cultures such as the ancient Incas and the ancient Egyptians and the Greek and the Persians worshipping the sun as one of their main gods. In the case of the Egyptians, we literally have them developing some forms of sunscreen and even skin whitening lotions because for them, a lighter skin tone was more desirable. But let's put a pin in that for now. We also have the Greeks who literally smear a lot of olive oil on top of their bodies as a way to protect themselves from the sun, which to be honest is the most Greek thing I've ever heard in my life. By the way, olive oil has been found to have like an SPF of 8, so the Greeks were onto something. So this push and pull of worshipping and protecting oneself from the sun goes way back. However, our story actually starts around 100 years ago. At the end of the 19th century, the norm for a majority of the population, especially high status women, was to avoid the sun. Not because of skin cancer, like we did not know that sun exposure caused skin cancer at that time, but because having a suntan at that time was for the poor. You can particularly see this in women's fashion, where high status women use veils, brimmed hats, and parasols to protect themselves from the sun. But everything changed in the 1900s and everything started with one Niels Finsen. Niels Finsen was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine and Physiology in 1903 thanks to his discovery of light radiation or phototherapy as a treatment for many infectious diseases. He suffered most of his life of poor health because he was stuck in Iceland, a place with limited light, surrounded by darkness with no glimmer of light, which is, to be honest, very relatable. So Niels had to say this about his experience. I have accomplished in my experiments with light, and all that I have learned about its therapeutic values has come because I needed the light so much. I longed for it. Niels became the father of phototherapy, showcasing that light and light therapy can be used to treat a lot of illnesses. We use a lot of his principle nowadays, but instead of prescribing the sun, we use lasers and sun lamps to avoid giving people skin cancer. Yet, Niels' discovery opened the doors for many people to take his findings and exaggerate the benefits of sun exposure. Like this Swiss man named Rollier, who took children on top of the Alps mountain to take classes in direct sunlight as a way to avoid getting tuberculosis, which honestly is the most Swiss thing I've heard in my life. It got to the point that The Lancet, one of the top medical journals in the world, said this about suntanning in 1910. Rightly or wrongly, the face browned by the sun is regarded as an index of health, and there are some persons who feel that the money spent upon a holiday has been well spent if they come back sunburnt. This view is generally justifiable, since the sunburnt face implies that the individual has been exposed to a fresh, healthy, and open environment. In 1926, The Lancet doubled down and said this about having a suntan: one of nature's greatest aids to maintaining and acquiring proper health. Basically, between 1900s and the 1930s, medical doctors and well-being enthusiasts were prescribing a suntan for virtually everything, from a renal chronic disease to syphilis. So yes, men were probably suntanning their in the early 1900s, very much like this buffoon suntanning his bussy in 2022. History always repeating itself. So, another thing that helped shape the modern attitudes towards suntanning was feminism. I know, I sound like one of those people complaining about Barbie, but no, like women's liberation was tied to the rise of suntanning. The context is that in the beginning of the 1900s, women began to enjoy more liberties, which translated into them spending more times outdoors and engaging in sports. That is that, especially for women of a higher socioeconomic status, they started to sport a tan because they were spending more time outside. So this association between having a tan and the current beauty This association between having a tan and the current beauty standards really started in the early 1900s. As an article of Harper's Bazaar puts it, the summer girl of the 1900s is ready to take a spin in an automobile, or to speed forth on her bicycle, or to hold her own with a racket in her hand at the tennis nets, or with her sticks to speed her ball over the short or long course of the golf links, or to take her ocean bath and with sturdy strokes to swim and disport herself like a mermaid in her abbreviated bathing costume, or to row and sail and yacht from early morn until late at night, letting the sun leave what impress upon her it can or it may. Hashtag hot girl summer. However, it was not until the 1920s that sunbathing really popped off. Like the roaring 20s were described as ultraviolet insanity, as the beaches became public rotisseries, cluttered with oil bodies roasting to a turn. When going to the seashore was no longer a luxury, many flocked to the beaches. Due to this, rules of modesty and nudity were being challenged left and right, especially for women. This helped start the swimwear trend of making bathing suits more revealing for men, women, and homosexuals, exposing more of our bodies to the sun. So suntan became synonymous with wellness, with being adventurous, and with being fun because it signified that you were out and about playing golf, tennis, and swimming at the beach. So all of this helped having a suntan and suntanning become fashionable and desirable since it was seen as attractive. And the cherry on top was in 1928 when Coco, mother-talking Chanel, was photographed sporting a suntan after her long journey on a cruise in the Mediterranean. Those photos were trending so much that it influenced many people to also sport a suntan. It reached to one point that one of her friends, Jean-Louis de Oui Le Baguette, said, "I think she may have invented sunbathing." You know, Jean-Louis is a girl's girl. Coco was then later asked about the photos and she famously said,
"The 1929 girl must be tanned. A golden tan is the index of chic."
Well, fuck my drag. So Miss Thing here, she was not only a Nazi sympathizer, she was also a skin cancer advocate. Hashtag girl boss. At the same time, suntanning was also being exploited by entrepreneurs, let's put it that way. They took the hype of the health benefits of misinformed or ill-intentioned medical professionals with the current fashion trends to sell sun or UV sun lamps. These sun lamps were advertised as having the sun inside of your house, and they were meant for people to get a suntan but also get the so-called benefits of sun exposure within their house. Like, don't get me wrong, these lamps are still used for medical purposes nowadays, but now they're regulated. However, back then it was the wild, wild west, and these lamps were hot, strong, and dangerous. So these devices were being sold left and right from your local barber shop to your local gym. So people were being exposed to the sun all the time. It was not until the late 1930s to the early 1940s that the medical establishment said, well, we made an oopsie. Like, for instance, it was not until 1936 that the Journal of the American Medical Association put out a reversal of a previous statement about suntanning, stating, as far as is known, men actually require only a relatively small amount of sunshine for the maintenance of normal health, and the greatest danger perhaps at the present time lies in too much exposure to sunlight rather than too little. But it was too late. The damage was already done. The fate of suntanning as the height of health, beauty, and youth was set in stone. I believe the New York Times in 1929 put it best, where they state, "For once, the lords of fashion and learning agree, for doctors hail the present suntan fad as healthful." So the culture of suntanning was solidified in the 1920s. And by the 1960s, as traveling became more accessible and celebrities started sporting a tan in the small and big screen alike, it started to disseminate to everyone around the world. So basically, our modern attitudes towards the sun and suntanning became part of the mainstream culture, thanks to a couple of tech bros, wellness gurus, and a fashion influencer. May God save us all. And just like that, melanoma went viral. And even though the medical literature continued to evolve, our relationship with the sun didn't change that much, especially in the West. That is, the US, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, and Canada. I always forget about Canada. They don't matter. So while the West is trying to get a tan, many other countries and many other parts of the world are trying to get rid of their tan. But that's enough of history for today. Let's go back to skincare. So let's moisturize. So for a moisturizer, I use the Purito Oat-In Intense Cream. I really like this product. Like, it's very your normal and typical moisturizer. Just to warn you, like, as you can see, the consistency kind of looks like male secretions, if you get what I mean. So make of that what you will. I have to say that for me, that's a positive. Let's unpin the pin of the last section, the ones telling that some lighter skin tones are more desirable than darker skin tones. And that brings us to the topic of skin whitening. Skin whitening often involves cosmetic procedures and creams and other types of cosmetic products in order to lighten your skin because it's perceived as more desirable or more attractive. And as suntanning, skin whitening also has a lot of adverse effects to people's health. So if suntanning is a white people problem, then skin whitening probably is a black people problem, right? Not really. Skin whitening is actually very common worldwide. In some parts of Africa, men and women are often bombarded with marketing trying to sell them skin whitening creams. It has gotten to the point that in some countries such as Nigeria, 75% of all women have used a skin whitening product in their lives. If we go to East Asia, the beauty standard can be best summarized through the proverb, "A white complexion is powerful enough to hide 7 faults." I know it's insensitive to comments on other people's cultures, but girl. So fair skin is usually associated with being wealthy and being beautiful. Like most of the products here that I have and I'm showing you, like their main goal is to try to sell you a glass skin. In South Asia, fairness is usually associated with beauty, virtue, and purity, usually associated to people from higher caste, as opposed to being tied to the untouchable type of caste. In Southeast Asia, many people use skin bleaching and skin whitening products as a way to be socially accepted and as a way to have and find better economic opportunities. Lastly, skin whitening in the Middle East, in Latin America, and in North America are also very common, since having a lighter skin tone is usually more desirable and accepted. It's important to note that skin whitening is more common in women than in men. However, the rates of men of using skin whitening products is increasing, particularly in the younger population. You may think that this is also a product of colonization. However, preference for a lighter skin tone and also skin whitening practices predate colonization. But I think we can all agree that our friend Christopher did not help the cause. And speaking about our good old friend Christopher, I have personally witnessed this spectrum between suntanning to skin whitening among people of different skin tones. So I am from a small island in the Caribbean with the unofficial motto of "I live for you vacation." Every time I say that quote, I just can picture a white girl suntanning in the middle of Punta Cana. I can openly say that because I was one of them. So basically what I'm trying to say is that the sea, the beach, and the sun are part of our DNA. But I also live in a country with a lot of skin diversity. So this is to say that in my country, when I talk with my light-skinned friends or my white friends, they crave the sun. But when I talk with my dark-skinned friends, they avoid the sun because they don't want to get more black, their words, not mine, or they engage in skin whitening practices. Basically what I'm trying to say is that there is a sweet spot of skin tone that are more desirable and attractive. If you're too white, you look like an incel, but if you're too dark, people think that you're from the hell. I'm not saying that these two things are equivalent in any way. What I'm trying to say is that if you're too white or too light, people tell you that you need to get out of your home. But if you are too dark, people tell you that you need to go to your home. So suntanning and skin whitening are not only associated with the perceptions and the aesthetics of wealth, beauty, and youth, they're also fundamentally tied with race.
Race?
A very light-hearted and uncontroversial topic. So let's circle back to the topic of suntanning and discuss its implications with race using some examples of very God-abiding and Christian women. So coming up, let's talk about Kim Kardashian, let's talk about Drag Race, let's talk about Tretinoin. If there is one product that completely changed my face, is this one. So this is Tretinoin or Retin-A. So Tretinoin completely stopped my acne. It improved my hyperpigmentation and it makes me pass as a Gen Z. So I know that in the States it's very expensive. I think it's like 70 euros for a tube. But in Portugal, it's 5 euros a tube. Thank God for socialism. So to illustrate the association between suntanning and race, I brought you 3 examples from pop culture. But let's start with the most famous one. Ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between. Her. Miss Kim here has been very influential, yet controversial. Love her, hate her, she's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. So come on now. However, Miss Thing here has been accused by more observant and frankly more intelligent people than myself as cosplaying as a black woman for profit. Allegedly. Please Kim, do not sue me, I'm just a catboy. This is all speculation. She has responded and even refuted some of these claims. But in my opinion, and other people's opinion, she has made some interesting and calculated choices, let's put it that way, on the way that she styles and presents herself to the world. One of which is a very deep tan. Like, yeah, I know that she's Armenian, but like sis is giving us a journey, diversity and inclusion. Like she has gone from Middle Eastern bombshell to Wakanda influencer to the all-American girl boss. And this is not me saying that because you have a deep tan, you're cosplaying as a black girl. No, like white people can get this dark. Like if you have been to the Mediterranean, you know that white people can get this color. However, having a very deep tan in combination with other stylistic choices such as her hairstyle, her clothes, and even her body. This is more evident in the late 2010s where hip-hop and rap were kings, and we saw Miss Kim Kardashian sporting a very deep tan accompanied with box braids and what many people think was a BBL. So compare that to more recent images where we see Miss Thing with sun-kissed skin, platinum blonde hair, and a slimmer figure. Like, where is the body?
The body is here!
If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of Kimmy's black era, YouTuber T Noir has an excellent deep dive and breakdown of how allegedly Kim uses blackness as an aesthetic but is currently rebranding as a white woman. I don't think the tan is just there. I think it's also part of a calculated look, as well as calculated choices of how you style and present yourself, such as hairstyles, clothes, and other type of elements can be seen as a way of misrepresenting and profiting from a culture or race that is not yours. But this is not an issue isolated to Miss Kimberly here. Like, just look at her sister Kylie, her new Bratz doll collection. Mama, in my country, she's morenita. Like, girl. You also have other celebrities such as Ariana Grande. Like, she has gone through some eras, like more eras than Taylor Swift. Like, we got the black hip-hop artist, we got the K-pop stan, we got SpongeBob's Other Women. As a Twitter user put it, she has personally tested all 60 shades of foundation of her makeup line. I'm telling you, like, some people wake up and choose violence. So leaving the world of Kim K and Ariana Grande, let's move on to another type of fandom. A fandom filled with peace and a very understanding and open-minded nature. Let's go to the Drag Race world. So, I am obsessed with Drag Race. And I think there are two examples within the RuPaul cinematic universe that truly exemplify what I want to say about the relationship about tanning and race, politics, and public perception. And the first example is Raven. She first competed in season 2 and then she also competed in All Stars 1. So currently she's now more well known for being RuPaul's personal makeup artist in the show. And even though that she's very well known and respected in the drag and drag race world, she's most infamously known in the internet because of her skin complexion. For this to make sense, this is a picture of her in 2010 and this is a picture of her now. Do you see a difference? So every time somebody brings up her name in an online space, she's consistently criticized or even made fun of because of allegedly blackfishing. AKA, that means using makeup, tanning, or even Photoshop to appear more black. So this topic is heavily contested in the RuPaul's Drag Race cinematic universe. Some fans and queens alike have called her out for allegedly blackfishing. On the flip side, other drag queens such as Bob and Monet, winners of RuPaul's Drag Race, have supported Raven and stated that they don't think that Raven is blackfishing. They just think that Raven really likes suntanning and approaches it kind of as bodybuilding. So that is that she progressively gets a tan because she wants to see more visible results, just like Tan Mom. That is something that is maybe harmful to her health, but not harmful to other people. So just like Kim, Raven has indeed a very dark tan. However, unlike Kim, Raven usually does not style herself or presents herself as a black woman. She lives her life and she presents herself as a gay white man. That sentence probably can kill a Victorian child. Another Ru girl that has been under fire for her tan is season 7 contestant Pearl. She was a runner-up in her season and she was very well loved after, not by RuPaul, but by everybody else. And she currently is under fire for posting this picture. Not her thirst trap, but this picture. And in the words of one of the most prominent philosophers of the 21st century, choices. Choices were made. The gay internet was divided for a day or two about whether this was blackface or not. Again, the suntan being one of the main culprits. Some queens and people praise her originality and find it funny. Some other people call it racist. So basically, it was just another Tuesday on the internet. So Miss Pearl indeed had something on her face.
So there's something on my face.
Yeah.
So some people call her out for doing blackface. So blackface is when a non-black person tries to impersonate or makes a caricature of a black person, usually accompanied with a lot of stereotypes in a way to mock black people and their culture. So it appears that Pearl was indeed trying to mock and make fun of somebody, but she meant to make fun of those Y2K girlies with their suntanning and juicy couture. So it was not her intention to do blackface, but I am just interested why other people perceived it this way. I think the best response to it was Taze, who commented in the picture and said that there is a lot to unpack here. Like, again, I think it's the skin tone where she indeed painted very dark to mimic the sun tanning effect. But I think that the problem relies that she accompanied this with big prosthetic lips and long nails, things that have been associated with black culture for some time. Some homosexuals online pointed out that all of this controversy and discourse could have been avoided if she didn't paint her skin brown, but instead painted it orange to mimic the effect of a suntan. But again, many white people can get this dark just with sun exposure. So is Pearl doing blackface? Unequivocally, I don't know. I'm just a cat. What I am curious and I want to point out is that a suntan is usually just never a tan. In all of these examples, a deep tan has always been in the scene of the crime. So am I saying that having a deep suntan if you're white is racist? No. Basically what I think is that the problem is that we glorify those that can get a suntan, but at the same time we mistreat people with deep and dark skin tones, which is a problem for literally everyone in the spectrum. Not only this is tied to higher levels of skin cancer, you also create a dynamic that having a suntan is desirable if you're white, but if you're dark skinned or have a deep skin tone, that is stigmatized and shamed to the point that they need or they are motivated to whiten their skin. And to add salt to injury, we have very influential and famous people who combine a very deep tan with other cultural signifiers to try to sell you a fantasy that they are not like other girls. Some people are celebrated for their skin and how they present themselves. Dark-skinned people are not. Again, emphasizing that just a handful of shades are considered desirable. Like, if you're giving Saint-Tropez with sun-kissed skin or golden skin, you won life. Any darker than that and you are too black, too ethnic, too dirty. I believe this is part of the essence of colorism. And if you're interested in hearing a deep dive about colorism from the perspective of a dark-skinned person, YouTuber Khadija has an excellent video talking about their perspective and their experiences with colorism. So yes, the historical and current pop culture representations of how we see suntanning impacts us on a daily basis. We just don't notice it because it's so subtle and so normalized in everyday life. So let's wrap this up and talk about the implications of suntanning while I seal all of this beauty. As the last step of my skincare routine, usually I seal everything up in the morning. Obviously, I use sunscreen, and the sunscreen that I'm using now is the Skin Aqua UV Super Moisture Essence. And at night, usually I use like a very occlusive moisturizer after Tret. And the one that I'm using is the La Roche-Posay Cicaplast Bomb 5 B5. And after Tret, like this has been the product that I've seen a difference in my face. So the only issue with this product is that it's French. So you may be wondering, am I being excessive? Yes. Is this extra? Yes. Am I gonna stop? No. And again, the only product that you really need is sunscreen and maybe a gentle cleanser that you can use at night to take away the sunscreen. Afterwards, everything else is extra. So this is a reminder that unsafe exposure to the sun can create a lot of problems down the line. However, I'm not advocating or saying that the sun is the devil or that you should never go outside. No, I'm not saying that. because unsurprisingly, if you do not go outside and be exposed to the sun, that is actually very bad for your health. So yes, you must go outside the house, you must be exposed to the elements, and for the love of God, please touch some grass. However, there are many ways for you to be safely exposed to the sun. The first one is wearing sunscreen. The second one is reapplying sunscreen if you're gonna be out for several hours. The third is using UV protecting clothing. And the fourth one is that if you're outside, try to seek some shade. Again, I am not against the sun. I'm not anti-sun. I am against the glorification of the sun tan. I guess like me doing this video is because I was very interested in how something so trivial can have such a deep history, can have so many profound implications for our beauty standards and our health, and also have many political implications. So even though that many of you may not consider this topic very deep, which understandable, I just want to leave you with some final thoughts. First of all, there should be more awareness about using sunscreen. Sunscreen should be like washing your teeth, something that you use for prevention and protection. Also, sunscreen should be cheaper. Like, girl, I am not paying 20 euros for 40 milligrams or a couple of ounces of sunscreen. Like, it's not gonna happen. I also think that sunscreen should be better formulated. That is that it should be less sticky, reapplication should be minimal to almost non-existent, and particularly we should avoid or improve on the white cast. For people with deeper skin tones, do not end up looking like James Charles. I also think that more attention and more sun protection should be given to those who are most vulnerable. Like outdoor workers, they should have free dermatological consultations, free access to sunscreen, and easy access to UV protecting clothing. We should also teach the men in our lives on how to build a proper skincare routine. I know that we're still fighting for them not to use a 3-in-1 shampoo, but girlies, we're playing the long game. Regarding the implications about suntanning, rays, and the public eye, I believe that conversations about body neutrality should include more discourse about skin tones. That is, that maybe we should start discussing skin neutrality. As I presented, there seems to be a cross-cultural desirability for a very limited amount of skin tones. This is more of an insidious problem for dark-skinned people who have to bear the burden of stigma and discrimination. But on a smaller scope, I think skin neutrality conversation should also include light-skinned people. Like, stop telling people that they look like a ghost or that they look sick, unless you're Azalea Banks telling Grimes that she needs a suntan and an IV. And again, I think we should stop the glorification of a suntan. That quote from Coco Chanel stating that a suntan is the essence of chic is like very Kate Moss coded, in the way that Kate Moss said that nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Like, that's not the vibe.
Like, it's not the vibe. Stop!
So just stop making unsolicited comments about people's appearance. Just stop. Another point that I want to make is that in my white-ass Latino opinion, I believe that discussions about race and racism can benefit more from a diverse perspective of colorism. It's a problem that affects us all. Like, when I was researching this video, I saw many statistics about melanoma saying that Hispanics are less likely to get melanoma. And I was like, but that doesn't make any sense. Like, do you know who's Hispanic? Our good old friend Christopher. Well, he's Italian, but you get the point. That statistic really does not make any sense to me. But if you look at it from an American's perspective, Hispanic in America means a poor brown Mexican. And yes, I can say that. I have Mexican friends. There are so many skin tones and identities between black and white. So yes, including more perspective of different shades, and especially from the global south, can give us all a more nuanced approach and a more accurate perspective of how different people perceive their own skin color and treat other people with different skin color. Another point that I want to make is that in this video, I did draw some similarities between suntanning and skin whitening, such as risking your health for beauty, prestige, and social status. However, these two things are not the same. People who get a suntan usually get it because they're told to or because they think it's desirable. But people who get or undergo skin whitening is because other people tell them that they are dirty. So suntanning often reflects peer pressure and the perils of beauty, while skin whitening often reflects colorism and classism. Two very different processes. This is why we should focus our attention on spotlighting people with dark complexion so they can share their own stories and be accurately portrayed and represented in the media. Lastly, if you want to get a suntan, do it in a way that is not gonna harm your skin or harm others. So, get a fake tan. That way you avoid getting skin cancer, but you feel cunty. Like I'm telling you, the Irish girlies are onto something. People make fun of them, but they are innovators. If you decide getting a fake tan, just be careful of the dosage and how you adorn yourself, because you want to be giving more Dua Lipa and less Rachel Dolezal. You know, the inverted audio. So thank you, ladies. That was my skincare routine. Thank you for accompanying me in this volatile journey about the history and current political representations about suntanning. And remember, please sunscreen and subscribe.